All right, welcome to episode 14 of Adventures in Inbetweening. Today I'm going to be changing it up and I'm going to be talking about one of the first shows I ever worked on at the awesome International Rocketship. It's Gary Larson's Tales from the Far Side 2. Now this show was something that I'd always loved the Far Side cartoon all the way through my teenage years. I was 26 years old when I started on this. I'd been out of animation school for a year. And so I was ready to put all of my newfound knowledge to the test and see what I could do with it. This was a terrific show to do that on. We see the kids at Trampoline World here, right beside the alligator farm, of course, and the alligators are moving their heads in time to the bouncing trampoline kids. I was so fortunate to have this be one of the first shows that I ever worked on because Marv Newland, in charge of International Rocketship, had one rule on this show, and that was to make it funny. So you can see here I'm using squash and stretch, making sure that I'm employing all the newfound principles that I had come to be accustomed with. Now here with the trampoline, I was thinking, okay, so what if the trampoline on every frame went boom, 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 boom? Would that work? And I tested that in animation school and thought about that. It could be a bad strobing effect, but if you've got enough supporting it, then it can actually work, where you've got a bit of a kind of a sound going on in your mind while you're watching it. So I was able to implement that here. Similar, so I've got a 24 frame cycle with a striped shirt kid. I have another 24 frame cycle with the girl here, and you can see I'm doing the same thing with her arms, 1, 2, 1, 2, just alternating the frames. And then the third kid, well, yeah, we see I'm just getting some overlapping drag here, making sure that that's all following the principles, using them as much as I can. This kid here now is a 16 frame cycle. So we've got the first two kids on every second, and then this kid's on every 2/3 of a second. So that sets up what's going to happen with the alligators here as we go over. Two of them are going 1 second, 1 second, and the other's going on 2/3 of a second. It's a very subtle joke, and not everybody would get it, and you certainly couldn't pull it off in print in the comic strip, which is why the animation was able to take the comic strip to another level. And the idea of the alligator disappearing into the water there with the ripples, I believe that was added later on. It was, oh, let's try this. Now, of course, we've got a scientist, using a time machine, because that's what you do in the Far Side 2 world. In this case here, he's getting out of the time machine. Now you see there's a big cheat there because there's not actually any door for him to escape, and we've got the foot on the ground there. And it was, I remember asking about, how do we do this? Are we going to open the door? And it's like, no, just cheat it behind the seat. And I just remember thinking, you can do that? We can actually just make something work because we want it to, because we're going to create that illusion. It was terrific experience overall, of course. Here I've got the face stretching. Again, it's very subtle, but stretching the face and then easing it into the end with some pendulum animation. So this is a little bit, again, more subtle in a way than a lot of the direct overshoot and settle animation that I'd learned in school and was, that I'd studied and seen a lot. All these pages were done actually later on in Photoshop. I didn't have to draw all the details on those. When the time machine disappears here, this drawing here, starting to curve it in, starting to stretch out the character. This drawing, I believe, was a layout drawing by, I think, Dieter Mueller. And so the layout saved my butt so many times on this show. I was given so much to work with that even these smoke drawings were done by layout. And so all I had to do was take these beautiful drawings that I was given and make it work within the context, add some timing, add some easing, add some changes to it, refine it further. So here, of course, you've got lions eating a tuba player in the savannah, because that's, again, what happens in the Far Side 2 world. Now, with the tuba, I actually used a stagger cycle here, and here's an illustration of a stagger for those of you who aren't familiar with it. So you do maybe 7 drawings. You say drawing 1, drawing 7, and you make a bunch of in-betweens. And then you go 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. So you get this sense of, and I put the drawings in different orders here, but that's basically the idea of this. You create a bunch of drawings and you put them in and out of order. If Death's going to take a holiday, of course he's got to pack his robes, and of course all the robes are going to look the same. Again, working with some terrific layout drawings here. Thinking about silhouette of the hands, really making sure that we've got a nice, clear illustration of his boniness there. Of course, he doesn't have a face, so that hood is going to have to show the head direction. There's no eyes to create any subtlety there. As I'm going along, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's stretch this out. Let's draw some multiple hands in there. He's moving quickly. I love my smears and my multiples, and I'll use it any chance that I get. Not only does it look cool and it feels zippy, it saves time. It's efficient. Here it's trying to make some variation, so let's have it zoom over the top here as he puts it in. And then this one here, this was actually the exact same pose I used for the first one, but to avoid too much repetition, I go into a different hand pose after dropping this robe. So you can get away with some repetition in animation. It's forgiving, but you need variations to be able to pull it off. Now you have a shark cowboy, because that's what sharks do. They catch unsuspecting human victims. When you've got bubbles coming up to the surface, of course, they're going to pop. Drawing some effects on here. So this is all done pencil on paper and thinking about the perspective, and then the ink and paint department on cells put in those lines later on to match. Same with these bubbles here. All thinking about the bubbles are going up, the shark's moving forward. And this was all, again, done on pencil on paper. And just to be clear, this is a transfer from a VHS tape, hence the blurriness. Oh, this tail here, I could talk for an hour about this tail. I probably drew this tail 20 times because trying to get this shark tail coming in perspective with my limited drawing skills at the time was an incredible challenge. It doesn't look like much now, but it was a terrific experience. So Gorilla Zoo, you have gorillas coming out of a cave. If you've got 3 gorillas coming out of the cave, and you can see when the gorilla comes out of the cave, you only have to draw part of the gorilla here because it's emerging from the shadows. And then we actually draw a few shadows on the gorilla here just to give a sense of darkness, that it's not just suddenly dark and light, there's a medium tone there. If you have 3 gorillas coming out, try and have the other 2 come behind the one. And this is, again, a beautiful layout drawing here. But it gave me the ability to only have to animate 1 for the most part, and then 2 and 3 comes out. Now, of course, somebody's fallen into the gorilla pit, so the gorillas are going to jump down and start doing what Far Side gorillas do. Now, here, again, I relied so much on layout for this, but just the silhouette of this arm up here, waving it around. I even have some multiples on the hands there, making that nice and clear, and offsetting all 3 gorillas jumping. So, middle gorilla is going to start moving first, and the other ones aren't moving yet. Then the left side gorilla, screen left, and then the right side gorilla. So we've got boop, boop, boop. We've got some nice overlap there. One's going down while one's going up. Comes up, stretches out quickly. This one's still squashing down. Now the one in the middle, again, I'm employing all my newfound cartoon skills and toolbox. So I'm going to have a whole bunch of multiple feet. I'm going to have the one on the left coming up and stretching. Then I'm going to have some multiple feet there, but I'm also going to stretch one leg out. The one in the middle now, I'm going to squash up, taking all of these different principles that I've learned and having the chance to use these principles. And one of my first jobs was just, it was so, I'm just so grateful in my formative years, animation-wise, that I was able to have this opportunity. Again here, might as well do one leg, and I got some nice overlap there with the one leg and the other. This was a terrific layout pose I had to work with. Look at the silhouettes there. In retrospect, I would have kept those silhouettes more integral all the way through. I had a lot of overlap there. But, you know, even here, it's those silhouettes, we'd always do it differently if we could go back to it. But that's not always, you know, that's not a bad thing. We live and we learn, and I look at some of the stuff that I did years ago, and overlapping the arms and the head here, so we get some nice opposing directions. I don't know that I could even do this kind of thing, or I would approach it differently now, and I like the way that I did it back then. So we grow, but always in different directions. So it turns out the gorillas are actually humans in disguise. They're all laughing, they're having a good time. So the big reveal here, we keep all three gorillas' masks on. Now they start to stretch the masks out, and as they stretch it out, this one's, and again, all at different times. And I think I did middle, left, right again. Yep. And so then the middle mask is stretching, it goes poop. And then the left side mask is also stretching. It's going to go poop. And reveal the heads beneath. So that gives us a really nice color pop. We don't have this gradual revealing of the head. It's all boo. And it's like, you know, when you play peekaboo with a kid, it's that sense of, it's a surprise that is appealing and interesting and entertaining to see. Here, creating a great silhouette for this guy, a clear silhouette, so that he can be separate from the other two. This one here, the crazy section with Patsy Cline's Crazy playing. I remember I was handing this in and I kept getting the request, the revision, add more in-betweens, add more in-betweens. And I was thinking, these in-betweens are getting so close. And all of these hatching lines, I just remember painstakingly drawing all these hatching lines on the in-betweens. And even when I look at it now, I'm like, yeah, that could use a few extra in-betweens at the end. We've got the hunters here, getting ready for the Kung Fu Deer, for those of you who have seen this. And if you can get a copy of this, it's extremely hard to find, but I heartily recommend it. Heartily. One thing I wasn't that great at was hands. You see my hand drawing here is pretty weak. Even, you know, now with just a simple tool, I would do a better hand. I'm always working on my hands. Hands are always something that we can try and improve, but I look at these hands and I think, well, I can't even cringe because that's where I was at the time, and it's a good indication of my skill level. And yeah, it's good to look back and think about how far we've come, I think. Yeah, this hand here, I mean, I'll just give it that much more appeal. But it works. It's functional. These hunters were a lot of fun. There was a lot of other animation going on within the scenes that I had to match up to, and so working with other people, seeing what they'd done, it was terrific. And this hand here was directly from layout, so even though it's very simple, it's very appealing. I love that. Oh, this show, I mean, the joy that I feel rewatching this is incalculable. I'm so fortunate to have worked with such an amazing group of people here. I mean, I could talk about all these animators for an hour. Every person here I learned from, and I was surrounded by such skill and talent. It set me on the road of loving what I do for the rest of my career. And I'm very grateful to have worked on this show. I hope it shows, and I hope you can find it somewhere if it gets re-released. And that's episode 14. I'll see you next time. Thanks for checking it out.